Do. You know, there was a time, and I just didn't do it today because I've got dozens and dozens of Pelican cases full of lenses. I thought to myself, you know, everybody knows you own these lenses. Do you really, really, really have to pull them out of their box each and every time you want to talk about them? And tonight I thought, you know, I think this time I'm not going to. People know I own these lenses. They know I use them. So can I actually talk about these lenses? And since the fact that I've got like 6,000 videos and I've shown these lenses in hundreds of videos, that you can take my word for it that I own them, which I sure as hell do. I'm going to talk about very quickly the best FX lenses for portraiture as far as telephoto glass for Nikon. By the way, I do own the 200mm f2. Amazingly enough, a lot of the lenses that people praise, wow, that lens is really sharp, you know. It is, but it doesn't render that great. I mean, it's too soft. It's like you got cotton candy on the front element of the lens. 200mm f2, I have that lens. I've shown it in several different videos. I don't actually like that lens for portrait. Wow, that's a great lens. It's the best portrait lens ever. Compared to what? You know, not only is it $5,600, I picked up my copy of it used a lot cheaper than that. Mine's a VR version. By the way, the first version of the 200mm f2, the non-VR version, had some serious issues on sharpness, and it didn't last as long as, because Nikon knew that it needed to be redesigned. But the VR version, which is the one that I have, the most recent version, $5,600. Very heavy, very expensive. You should definitely get insurance on it. But I don't recommend that lens. I don't. So that's going to be the first statement out of anybody's mouth is, why didn't you mention the 200mm f2 Nikkor? Everybody says that's the best portrait lens ever. No, it's not. I own it. It is a pretty damn good sports action lens, especially for isolating the subject. So for good autofocus, it really is a great sports action lens. It really is. But this video is not about that. It's about portraiture with telephoto lenses at 100mm and above. Specifically, my favorite portrait lens of all time is the 105 f2 DC Nikkor. The 105mm f2 DC Nikkor. Used, you can get it for like $750 on average. The next step up from that, also equally awesome. I prefer the 105 better. I like the way it renders better. Is the 135mm f2 DC Nikkor. I can't position my microphone correctly here on my shirt. Yes, the 135mm f2 DC Nikkor. My favorite, right after the 105, and in some ways is better, but that's just due to compression and its focal length. And I have 6 copies of this lens. That's the 180mm 2.8 Nikkor. It's a screw drive lens. There's a couple different versions of it. The latest one has a pebbled finish on it. They both have retractable built-in lens hoods. The older one is glossy black. But it's they're both optically identical, by the way, because everybody keeps asking me that. What's the difference between the two? It's the 180mm 2.8 Nikkor. You can get that lens used all day long. New is $1,000. But you can get it used all day long. It's been made for ages. The reason Nikon still makes it is because the lens is the tits. Micro contrast, everything. I mean, that lens is just crotch melting silk section sugar. It is the woodpecker lips of portrait lenses. If you don't own that lens and you're a Nikon fan, then really you're an idiot. It's really like top value Nikkor lens to buy. Used, not new, because it's $1,000. You know, why? There's tons of them used on eBay for $300, right around there, $300. 180mm 2.8. I've owned every version of this lens. The next one is the 300mm 2.8. It's like, which one to get? Don't get the VR2. It's only a stop better VR. It costs a ton of money. You can get an AIS version, which is a manual focus version, for like about $400. The super heavy one, the heaviest one of all time, you could beat people over the head with it. It's the AFS Nikkor. It's a silent wave drive lens. Super fast autofocus. Pretty damn cheap. You can get it used for about $1,300 last I looked. Really huge lens. That's the AFS Nikkor. The best one to get for speed, which has built-in VR, and optically they're all slightly different, but the optical output on all of them is just crotch melting perfection. But it's the VR1, the 300mm 2.8 Nikkor VR1. Comes with a nice black zippered case. I've got that lens also. Really, the 300mm 2.8 Nikkor is about the finest, definitely top three. The top three telephoto portrait lens from Nikon is the 105 f2 DC Nikkor, the 180, and the 300 2.8. To a much lesser extent, and it's obnoxiously huge and heavy and obnoxiously expensive. And very few people use it for portraiture. Everybody's using a 300 2.8 for extreme portraiture, especially for compression. Is the 400mm 2.8, but not so much. But importantly, the 105 f2 DC Nikkor, the 135mm f2 DC Nikkor, the 180 2.8. The one lens, if you don't have it, you're an idiot. And the 300mm 2.8. Doesn't matter what version it is, the AIS, the AFS. There's also the AFD, which I forgot to mention. There's an AFD screw drive lens, also really, really cheap and really, really awesome and really, really heavy. But it is just, it's built like a brick outhouse also. It's also a really great lens. Doesn't matter what 300 2.8 you get, it's just, all of them are just the epic balls. They're just incredible. But no, on the 200mm f2. I own that lens. That's a lens that a lot of people, this is great. They just don't know any better. I guarantee you 98% of people that bought that super expensive lens and use it for portraiture, he's like, well, I don't know, I looked at his images, they look really good from the 200 f2. It's like, compared to what? I asked these people that own that lens, do you actually own 302? Nope, don't. You ever use the 182? But nope. The 180 2.8, which is exactly used $5,400 cheaper than 200mm f2, and it's very close in focal. 180, 200, yeah, is far, far, far better output than the 200 f2. One hand we got $5,600. On the other hand we got $300. 300 versus 5,600. The 180 does a much, much better job for portraiture. I don't know about you, but unless you're rich and super stupid and you want to spend $5,600 on 200 f2, no, get the 180 2.8. So anyway, of all the Nikon Nikkor videos that I've made, I don't think I'd actually made this video. If you hate me for not pulling the lenses out, I'm so sorry. I've been incredibly busy today. I own all these lenses. If you don't believe me, just type in one of these lenses or all of them and you'll see some video of me from the past year or two or three holding the lens. I own all of them. In case the 180 2.8, I own 6 copies of it. People are like, why do you own 6 copies of the lens? Because every time I find one really, really cheap, it's like, oh man, I can't turn that down. Buy it! Yeah, yep. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely day. Peace out, Girl Scout. Bye.